Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Club. This is the place everyday real estate investors gather to share their best stories, biggest insights, and favorite tactics to grow a portfolio of cash flowing properties in today's market. Here's your host, Gabe Peterson.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. This is the singular Wednesday episode that we record. So I'm bringing that Wednesday, that hump day energy to you guys. I'm hoping you guys are having a good week so far. Today we have Ross Hoffman with us from Idaho, good old PNW guy. Ross has a lot of experience in land. So we're going to go into land flipping. For everybody who likes the idea of getting into land, buying raw land, and then flipping it for a profit, this is the episode for you. So I'm super excited. Ross, thanks for hopping on the show.
Thanks for having me, Gabe. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I forgot to mention RE Ladder is his company. Ross, I told you before we got on here, we like to start with stories. I was reading the bio that you sent me. I wanted it to come from your mouth because you do have an interesting past. So why don't you tell us how you got into real estate and what your story has been up to this point?
Okay. Yeah. So I started as a electrical and computer engineer out of school, coming out of Oregon State University. Got an internship at NASA over in Kennedy Space Center. Really was following my passion there, but I realized I wanted more freedom, wanted to make more money, and I kind of caught the entrepreneur bug the more I started to study finance. So being an engineer, I spent a lot of time figuring out studying what was the most statistically probable way to make a lot of money and work for yourself, and just naturally fell into real estate. So a bunch of podcasts later, some networking events. I met some local wholesalers up in the Puget Sound in Washington. And they kind of taught me everything that I needed to know to really get into it. So doing cold calls all weekend, worked it really hard, learned a lot. And then I actually got my first deal about 9 months to a year later, wholesaling. Made around $20,000 off that one, and it kind of changed everything for me. It really got me into that sphere. I left my engineering job, got into private money lending to really, double down on real estate investing and networking in that area also. And then when the pandemic hit, they put all the sales guys on 1099, and I decided to just go full time into wholesaling. So me and the guys I was working with set up a little shop, got a condo, got a couple front end sales guys, and just went all out on it. We did well. We made that thing work for about a year. Wholesaling houses up there. I mean, the margins they're large up in the Puget Sound, with the house prices just inflating like crazy during that time period right after 2020. So that was going well. And then met my wife, got married, got into e-commerce right after that. Got tired of real estate. Actually burned out for a little while. Made some e-commerce stores, ran those, lived out of the back of our car for 6 weeks, traveling the country, just doing the whole van life thing that was all trendy at the time. And it was a great experience. But at the end of the day, the e-commerce stores weren't paying as much as real estate was previously. So I met a guy, a couple people down in Tampa, Florida, and they're like, hey man, if you're not doing this vacant land flipping thing, like, you're missing a massive opportunity. So you straight up said he made $100K that month, and I could do the same if I put my head down and make this thing work. So I handed off all the e-com stuff to my wife and went 100% into land flipping and bet the whole farm on it. And here we are about 3 years later. I got an education company. I'm teaching people how to do it, and I've been successfully doing it with my team now, full time for 2.5 years or so. It's been a great experience.
Nice, man. That's awesome. Your story, it mirrors mine a lot, and I don't know, I think it's funny. I also got into e-com, before I got into real estate. I still have that store. It's still plugging away in the background, but it doesn't. E-com is not. I don't feel like it's as sustainable as real estate. It's also not as scalable, unless you have a product that really, really does work out. But yeah, it's interesting. I thought that was funny. And the van life during COVID, I saw so many of those videos of people doing the van life. It's interesting that you guys went out there and did it. I know this isn't about real estate, but I just got to hear, like, how was the experience living in the van? Did you guys go, we own RV parks, so I'm always curious. Did you go to RV parks throughout the country, and how was it?
We did a lot of dispersed camping. We did some RV stuff, when we wanted to use their shower facilities and stuff like that. We got the occasional hotel, but it was in my Toyota RAV4, so it wasn't even a van.
Oh,
Like I
wow.
took out the back seats and put in a little memory foam mattress, and we had a big roof box. So it was kind of dispersed camping most of the time.
That's cool.
But it was a cool experience. I definitely wouldn't recommend bootstrapping an ecom business at the same time in the
Yeah.
summer when you're doing that. It's a little hot, a little uncomfortable. But the memories were priceless, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So, and you are also the first person that I've talked to who went into real estate, left real estate, and then came back. Usually people, once they get in, they kind of stick, but it sounds like you got burned out on the cold calling, which I feel like is
Yeah.
100% doable. Which I always recommend people, if you have the money, get a cold caller to work for you. Cold calling is the
Hmm.
one thing. It's necessary. It is the best way to get good deals, but if you're doing it day in, day out, it can definitely bring you out. And some of the best firms we work with, they actually rotate their cold callers in, if you hire one cold caller for an 8 hour period, they will rotate, 3, 4 cold callers in that 8 hours just to make sure that those cold callers don't get burned out. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it can definitely be rough. I understand. So you got into land is where you landed. No pun intended. Uh, what was it about land that kind of sold you on going down that path?
Honestly, the simplicity and the marketing method where the leads come into you.
Okay.
So, with wholesaling, we were going to the leads. With land investing, the marketing method that I saw the people using that was working, the leads were coming to you. So, with wholesaling, it's cold calls. With vacant land, it was direct mail marketing. So we'd send out blind offers at whatever price we thought we could make a margin on. And, it costs a lot more, but it was really nice having people, knock on your door, call your phone number back, email you back. And I'm a systems guy with the engineering background. So I'm like, okay, let me just make a conveyor belt and process these leads, have our set criteria, and then just have yes, no decisions on it and push it through to an agent to sell the thing once we close on ones that we like. So it seemed very scalable, very repeatable, very linear. And, the margins on the average deal size were plenty to pay for, the direct mail marketing. You're looking to
Yeah.
double your money on these land flips. So
Yeah. And direct mail it is one of my favorite methods, precisely because of what you said. You send it, and then people that are interested call you. Like they are calling
yeah.
you. They want to, they at least want an offer, or they want to know more. If you're doing cold calling, the vast majority, 90% plus, are people who they don't want to talk to you. And sometimes
Mhm.
they get mad. They're like, why are you calling me? Get rid of my number. So it can be hard. So direct mail is a great way to go. It is more expensive. So it sounds like the way that you kind of made it work for you is you included the offer in the mailer that you sent out. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. What kind of mailers are you sending? Is it postcards? Is it what do you call those, windowed mailers? Is it handwritten mailers? And then also how are you including the offer in that mailer?
Yeah, so it's generally just a two-page windowed regular letter that gets sent out there. Quick cover letter, who I am, what we're doing. Try to build some rapport there right on the beginning. And then just a simple one-page agreement, which is really more of a handshake than anything. Because either
Yeah.
party can back out. It's just like, hey, I agree to sell this parcel here at this price, and these are a couple quick terms right here, which give us both some safety. And that's about it as far as coming up with the price and stuff. That's just based off of what we're finding in the market value, and we run a couple of spreadsheet calculations, and that's about it for the marketing going out. There definitely is a barrier to entry on costs. It's definitely not cheap when you're starting out, but if you can front it, if you can scrape it by, it has been very linear.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So you guys are sending out just dumb, simple purchase agreements, essentially.
Yeah. Hmm.
We actually had to, when I first got into mobile home RV self storage, I hired a lawyer to make us this like super comprehensive purchase agreement.
Yeah.
That it was, I don't remember how many pages it was, but it was so comprehensive and protected everything that you could possibly protect. Um, and I liked it, but I found that I couldn't get anybody to sign it. Not one person wanted to sign it because it was too long. So I scrapped it and I
Hmm.
went for this purchase agreement, even for commercial properties. That's, it's like, I think it's like four pages, 5 pages, something like that, which is a lot shorter than the other one.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot more success. So it sounds like you're more sending out an LOI. It's non-binding, but it just says, hey, this is what we can offer you. This is the terms. It's going to be cash, going to be closing in X number of days, that kind of thing, right?
Exactly. Yep. And then the title company handles it from there. They do a lot formal stuff later.
Okay. So you send that, the two pager front, cover letter and then the LOI. And then do you direct that person to send you the mailer back signed, or how does it work? What's the instructions that you put in the mailer?
Really, whatever they want to do. We have a couple ways to contact us, phone, mail, email. And then, depending on their motivation, sometimes they send it back signed, sometimes they just call and inquire for more info. And then, regardless, we'll just pull that reference number, look at that data on our end, and then reach back out to it once we've done some quick analysis with the team and see, do we like this? Do we not like this? Do we have some more questions to convince ourselves to buy this? What can we uncover? We kind of just go from there. It really depends on, the person that reached back out to us.
Yeah. One of the things that I've found, because in our marketing, especially marketing for mobile home RV parks, we get a lot of land. We don't buy land and we don't really deal with it, but we have done some wholesales with land, and we've always been surprised at the price people are willing to pay.
Yeah.
And so we at one point we thought about just marketing for land, but I got held up on how do you value these things. So when you are valuing the parcels, especially when you're putting the offer in the mailer that goes out, how are you creating that initial offer, that initial value? Because you have to do it at scale. I'm sure you're sending out 2,000, 5,000 mailers at a time. And so you have to be able to just calculate this off data that's out there in the market. Are you doing it based off of appraised value, assessed value, not appraised, assessed value, Zillow value? How are you coming up with the value on the first go?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of sold data on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, Land.com, and their network for vacant land. And it's honestly plenty if you're going to cover an entire county to get a nice, smooth looking curve over an acreage range there on market value.
Okay.
Just for the sold, really, a couple web scrapers, you hire some virtual assistants to pull the data for you, work with it that way. But it's all publicly available, just online, scroll through Zillow type stuff.
Yeah, makes sense. And are you offering, so let's say the market value is 100,000, just for example. Would you offer 25 cents on the dollar, or what's your standard offer for a parcel?
So it really depends on the market and kind of the data you've collected previously. Things are changing. People are paying more for vacant land now. There's more competition with land investors. So you used to be able to pay, 25% or so. Nowadays, you're looking at more double your money mark, right? So anywhere between, 40, 60% of total market value is kind of what you're aiming for. But it also depends on, what you or your capital partner are willing to invest in, right? Do you need to double your money? Do you not? I mean, if you got a couple $1,000,000 laying around, you might be cool with just making a 20% ROI in 100 days on this property and doing that 3 times a year to get your 60, right? You're going to smash the market, make a lot. It just kind of depends where your threshold is. You bake that margin in there also for risk, because there are unknowns. It is still speculative, but to date, I've done well over 100 deals and never have lost money on a property. So that's just
Knock
kind of a
on
testament to, knock on wood, but buying low and selling high. If you buy it cheap enough, you just sell it back at wholesale price if you made a mistake.
Yeah. We've had a few land guys on the show, and it sounds like a strategy that a lot of them go for is buying and then subdividing, even entitling. Do you do how much of the process do you work with? Are you just buy and sell, or do you do work on the property once you buy it?
I'd say 90% of the time, I'm just flipping it without touching it. The most we'll do regularly is, cleaning up the title work, getting an attorney involved, pulling it through probate or something like that, getting a bunch of liens pulled off of it, and, a little bit of work there. I've began projects where I was going to do larger subdivisions, but I ended up flash selling the property to somebody that gave me an all cash offer in a time period that I just couldn't ignore. Yeah. Instead of leaving $250,000 sitting in this property that's going to take a year to sell, you can still make $100,000 in 3 months and just get it gone, and not have to worry with all the permitting, with all the water meters and all that type of stuff. So I really just look at ROI numbers, and I'm in the relatively cheaper range of market value prices for vacant land, kind of sub 200,000 on the market value side. And within those, it kind of just makes more sense to just flip it. You can break them up. You can parcel it. I have actually 2 or 3 of those going on right now, where we're taking up, a larger property and breaking it into smaller pieces to increase your price per acre, make a little bit more money. But it's relatively simple. That's just a survey. So I'm really not doing anything like, full entitlement or getting permission. A lot of this stuff is, very rural America, no restrictions, do whatever you want. That's kind of the idea.
Wild West. I love it. So speaking of rural America, you might mention that. What type of, where are you finding the parcels? Where do you market? Is it, are you looking for, 80 miles outside of markets like Dallas, Fort Worth, or are you looking like literally in the middle of Kansas, 100 acres just out there where nobody sees it?
Yeah. Generally, it's 1 to 3 hours away from a big city.
Hmm.
And,
And how do you define big? Is that 100,000 or more, or?
Honestly, I don't even get into those types of details. Like Dallas is a big city. St. Louis is a big city. Cincinnati, like the main ones that show up on your map, essentially.
The ones you think of, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then, those kind of tertiary sub-cities, people like to be within, an hour of those also if they're smaller, just so that way they have, their grocery stores and maybe a hospital and stuff like that. But I do it mostly based off, rural properties, so further away from town. So the prices drop. And like I said, sub $200,000. That's really the main filter. It's not even acreage size to a certain extent. It's really just price point. Because what you're doing,
200,000 per acre, or is it 200,000?
No, that's total.
Total
price.
Okay.
Yeah. So sub, that's kind of the sweet spot, at least for more of a volume business.
Yeah.
With this, but yeah, it's more catered to the buyers. Like, call a couple land specific agents and be like, what are people looking for? Mm-hmm. Right. That's been the easiest way for me to at least figure out where to go, what to look for, what people are into, because that's your client, really. Like, sure, the seller, you're working with the seller, but the person that you're really making money with is the person that's going to buy the inventory off your hands.
That leads me to the next question. Disposition is always one of the, especially in wholesaling, it's, in my opinion, the harder piece. Unless you have a really solid buyer's list, which you'll only get if you stay in the same market, day after day. We work all over the U.S. So whenever we get land, we don't have buyers in that specific area. So how do you go about finding buyers for your properties?
Honestly, we just put them on the MLS. We throw them on the land.com network.
Oh, right, because you're closing. You're not wholesaling. You're buying them.
Correct. Yeah, we're buying, which is a lot of the value add. The sellers take us seriously. A lot of them have worked with wholesalers and they didn't like that experience of like, hey, you didn't get it sold. Now I still have the property. We wasted 90 days. So it's with cash in hand. That's really the value add there. Once we own it, it's on us to just get it sold and get our money back. So we'll ship it off to a real estate agent that's land specific or market it for sale ourselves online.
That's the way to do it. Putting your money where your mouth is. Wholesaling is definitely, it has its place to make sure that a deal gets done. If you say to a seller, if it's a commercial property, a piece of land, hey, I want to move your property at this price, you get into due diligence, you find it doesn't fit what you're looking for, but you can still close with another buyer, you definitely should be closing, because the goal is just to get the property moved, the property sold, the seller gets his money. So it definitely has its place, but I always, as a business model, I don't prefer wholesaling. I don't like looking for properties to wholesale. I like looking to properties for buy, and then if wholesaling fits, if it makes sense, then you can do it. But I don't really like the model of running a business as a wholesaling business. So I like that you're going out there, you're buying the property. That is a value add because you are just giving the seller what they need. The seller wants to exit this property. They want the cash. So you're giving them that without having to go through somebody else. And then you're doing the work on the back end of finding the buyer after having done the transaction. So I like that.
Yeah.
In terms of scaling, what are the things that you kind of ran into that you didn't think you didn't really see when you first started your business? What were kind of the inflection points that you saw?
The main driver is really just send more marketing. Yeah. So you can improve your offers, you can improve your location analysis, you can make your systems better on the back end. But the one thing that changes everything is just send more marketing. So if I was to do anything different, I'd probably just send more marketing earlier. Just the trick with that is, there's the delay with, you send the letter and then you got to buy it, and then there's the delay of holding it and then selling it. So cash is always at a premium. So you can't always spend, as much as you want on mail in the earlier stages. But that is kind of the answer for most things. As long as your returns are looking good, just send more marketing and build the system to cover it up behind it.
Cool. I am a sucker for a good KPI. So let's talk about your marketing. Do you have the information like mailer to call to contract to close, the conversion rates?
Yeah, for the most part, I got a couple off the top of my head. I can
So yeah, take it from the top and let's just hear what the conversion rates are.
Yeah, so generally I'm getting a 1% to 2% response rate coming in.
Okay.
Off of, gross mail volume. The thing with that though is not everybody wants to sell. A lot of people want to be taken off that mailing list and stuff like that. So there's a
sorry to jump in, but I've had that with mobile home parks. People are like, take me off your mailing list. And I'm like, don't you just throw it away? There's like no problem. I don't understand why it's a problem if you're sending mailers. Why somebody would request to be taken off of
I know the amount of junk mail that you get from everybody else, cell phone companies, insurance companies, car loans, like just throw it in the recycling with all of them. If you don't like it, you don't need to reach back out to me. I get it. Like, just let me waste the money on it. But anyway, to each their own. So generally, it's somewhere between 3,000 to 4,500 letters. I'm looking to get a deal nowadays. Really depends. That number can change, but that's kind of what's going on as of late. And on the average deal purchase side is around $30,000 cash to buy. Average sell is about $60,000 to sell. Looking to double your money there. The average hold time to date is around 100 days. So that's the business model in kind of a nutshell as far as the main KPIs that we're looking at. And then you just push on your levers to try to make that happen more. So your capital positions, like, a lot of people use deal funders, or they partner with private equity, or somebody with some deep pockets that they know, or they'll joint venture per deal to gather the money to get into these types of things. Because that's another barrier to entry outside of the mail cost is, how do I pay cash for all of these leads and deals that are coming in? But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah. So 1% to 2% response rates from the mailers. Do you know from the calls that you get, how many of those calls go to contract?
Ooh, I don't have that number off the top of my head. It depends how picky you are also with the deals. But, right now I'm selling somewhere around 10 deals per month with my personal operation. So, it's just a factor of how much mail you send and how long your pipeline's been building up and how comfortable you feel in those markets.
Yeah. And then you mentioned the mailer per deal, per closed deal, you said is 3,000 to 4,000 mailers to get a deal done.
Correct. Yeah. 3,000 to 4,000 is relatively, you can expect that if you're pretty accurate.
Have you used postcards at all?
I haven't. I know people that have, but I kind of like the letters. And when I was looking at costs, like, it really wasn't that much cheaper to send a postcard for some reason.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Back when we do mostly cold calling now because we're looking at commercial, and but when I was doing mailers, we did a bunch of postcards, and they were dirt cheap. But I always thought that they didn't have as much of an impact as regular yellow letter kind of stuff. So makes sense. All right. So next 2 to 5 years, what does it look like for you guys?
Just keep going. Keep going as long as it keeps working. That's the idea. Don't stop. Outsource the things I don't like to do. That's probably what I enjoy the most is just scaling the business on the back end and building the systems behind it. Improving the team, making things simpler, reducing unnecessary steps, and then hiring essentially to keep fueling it, just consistently growing over time. That's really the plan. That's the trajectory right now as far as this business is concerned. Outside of that, I do want to continue to build the Relater community here and help other people that want to get into this because it's really transformed my life. Create deal funding communities in there and all that type of stuff to help other people. So that's the vision at the moment.
Love it. All right, I'm going to take that opportunity to push us into the quick question round. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Starts with education, could be any form, could be books, movies, Netflix shows, YouTube channels, whatever. Give me 2 recommendations, one for general life wisdom and then one for real estate.
Before we continue on with today's guest, I want to tell you guys about a community I'm launching on School to help investors like yourself grow your own portfolio. In this community, you'll get access to all the docs I use, all the systems I've built, everything I've used to grow my own portfolio, as well as instructions and guidance on how to get out there and find great deals, how to finance those deals, and then how to manage them for great returns. Since we're just launching it, the price will be set at a measly $20 per month, and whatever price you join at is the price you'll have for life. We will be increasing the price as the group grows, so if you're at all interested in growing your portfolio along other investors, now is the time to join. I will put the link somewhere in the bio or on our podcast website at therealestateinvestingclub.com, so if you are interested, head on over there. With that said, let's get back to the podcast.
General Life Wisdom. Honestly, the 4 Hour Work Week was like my favorite book ever. I've read that book 3 or 4 times now. Everybody, it's cliche. Everybody recommends it, but Tim Ferriss single-handedly taught me how to outsource my business, and it was with a couple of comedy chapters. And you just make a couple phone calls and hire some people, over in Asia or over in other areas, and it's completely life-changing. So that was a huge mentality shift for me. I remember reading that book on one of my first vacations, after getting out of college. And just getting off that plane, if I'm working for myself, I can do whatever I want. We can make whatever we want to have happen. Screw whatever society's telling you, just do it. So that's my top recommendation all day, every day. I don't care who you are. It's just a good read. And then, real estate specific. I wish I had a better answer, but Rich Dad Poor Dad was another slap in the face right out of college. Young guy. Nobody in my family was entrepreneurial really, and just I was beat in to go get a job, go work, do that type of thing, like a house as an asset, all type of stuff. And then, Kiyosaki's like, nope, flip that upside down. And that really kind of pushed me into getting into podcasts in general afterwards.
Yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad is my first book, or first real estate book too. Is a good one. I have yet to read 4 Hour Work Week. I think I actually have 2 copies of it. I bought it and then somebody gave it to me. I understand what it's going to say, and that's probably why I haven't read it, because I'm already doing what he says to do. But I feel like I should still read it, just because many people have recommended it to me, and I feel like there probably is still some good wisdom in there.
It's extreme too. So even if you feel like what's going to be in it, he'll push the boundaries of get a VA to email your wife an apology to your argument type. It just really kind of breaks out oh, I can do that. I can do this,
Right. Okay. All right. I'll have to pick it up. All right. Next question is for your younger self. Let's go back to the Ross who was still working at NASA, doing whatever NASA people do. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
The potential upside of making a decision that seems scary, big, and hard is 10 to 100 times better than the potential downside. I think that's what I would say. Your life can be so much better and so much different if you do this thing and it works out. And if it doesn't work out, maybe you lose a year and that's it. Nothing that bad's going to happen. You just lose a little bit of time. So just understanding that the trade is not even, it's not fair. If you want to go get something, the payoff is so much higher and it compounds too. So once you start to get some wins, it snowballs and just gets bigger and bigger. But you never get that thing rolling if you never start.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really good advice. I would also add to that even if you lose, if you just keep at it, you will get there. If you are working hard every single day for a long time, at some point you're going to get lucky. And that's all you need, is just that little bit of luck to kind of get the snowball rolling. I always liked, I think it was Benjamin Franklin or somebody, I can't remember who it was, but he said, the harder I work, the luckier I get, something like that. And I always thought that was a good quote, because it's not so bad to lose. It's going to happen to everybody. You're going to get punched in the face every once in a while. But the cost of not taking the action just because there's a possibility of loss is not even close. It's not even, you got to just get out there, get the work done, take the punches in the face and just keep going. And eventually you're going to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. Consistency and all that. And you really do make your own luck.
Yep. All right. Next question is about the US. It is a big place. There's a lot of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro you are most excited about investing in today. Or I guess a
Ooh,
single area, single county. How about that?
I don't want to get all the way down into counties, but I do like the South. I do like, the Sun states in general. I
Okay.
think especially with people working remotely all the time. I mean, even me, like, yeah, I'm in Idaho right now, but there's a very high chance that we're going to move back down to the Sun Belt of the country. Um, just for kind of the limitless solar energy that we're getting, like mentally as entrepreneurs, it's really nice. And people working remote, there's people still want to go into these areas, especially cheaper markets too. Just generally, I know it's not super specific, but be excited for those cheaper markets, those markets that you used to never really think about. Like people with money are going down there and they're buying up stuff that they could never afford in big cities or big metros. So there's things are small towns are growing in general, and that's where a lot of my buyers personally are coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually, one of our main metros is Gainesville, Florida. I know it's not a tiny metro, but it is a smaller metro that most people don't go to in Florida, but we like it because it's not Miami prices, but it still has great fundamentals, great value. So smaller metros are definitely I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
All right, next question is about you already said this, but we're going to ask it anyways. Your favorite way to find deals? It always starts with getting in contact with the seller and penning up that purchase agreement. So, what is your favorite way to generate leads and find deals?
Going direct to the seller. Direct mail marketing right now is my favorite. I don't like doing cold calls anymore. I probably will never do them again if I have any say about it. So yeah, any sort of automated advertising, whether that's PPC or mail or something like that, just as long as it is trackable, you don't have to be the one to actually make that first touch. Those are my favorite.
Absolutely. All right, lessons learned. It's not every deal we get into goes the way that we expect it. A lot of times, a wrench is thrown into the mix, and things go a little sideways. But that is where we learn our biggest lessons that we can take on to the next deal. So, what was the biggest lesson learned for you, and from a deal gone sideways?
Don't skim over your title commitment. You're
That is a
paying
big
those attorneys
lesson.
for a reason.
Yeah.
If there's a line item on your exception list that you don't understand, just ask the question. You know, do a little bit more digging. I bought something that was a little bit too close to an airport, and I was assuming that all the houses around me, including being behind me closer to the airport, were good news. Oh, I could put a house here. There's houses behind me that are even closer. Turns out rules changed and they were grandfathered in. So there was a moratorium on building new structures on the
Oh,
property. And, when you're fighting with FAA regulations, they're not going to budge on you.
You're not going to
So,
win.
yeah, airway easements, look out for them. If you see them, ask your attorney what's going on. But, at the end of the day, I bought the property so cheap. It was like 35% of what market value was. I ended up selling it direct, even outside of a title company. Just the guy literally wired me the money, and I sent him in the mail, FedEx, a deed at the exact price that I bought it at, with after all closing costs, and broke dead even on it. And he was just happy to have a spot. And he thought he was another investor. I think he thought he was getting a deal. He didn't care. I told him what was up. He called the county and he knew everything. He still wanted it. So yeah, it still worked out. You just got to be patient with us. But yeah, don't skip the little details, especially the legal stuff.
Yeah. Interesting about the airports. I did not know that, but it makes a lot of sense because rules change. Planes got bigger. I'm sure they don't want the fuselage falling on somebody's house.
Yeah.
All right. This brings us to the last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you? And then what can they expect when they reach out?
Yeah. So best way to get in contact with me is through reladder.com, reladder.com. I also got a YouTube channel. It's Reladder as well. Go through some deals that I got going on, vacant land, all things vacant land. And there's a contact us page on the website. You can book a call with me, shoot me an email. I'm always willing to speak with people, even if it's just a discovery call, and, seeing what's up. And then, if it's a good fit or if it's something that you want to get into, more than happy to welcome you into the education community I got going on with some other vacant land flippers that are looking to potentially change their own lives. So, yeah.
Cool. I will put that link in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out, just click a little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description, and in there you can find Ross's link. All right, man. That wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Thanks so much, Gabe. I really appreciate it. I had a good time.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. If you want to support the show, just give us a review. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
All right, before I officially sign off, I have a quick announcement to make. If you're interested in becoming a passive investor in one of my deals, my own company, Kaizen Properties, is looking for capital partners for our upcoming projects. We invest in what are known as recession-resistant assets, mainly self-storage facilities, mobile home and RV parks, and industrial properties. If you're interested in investing and would like to learn a little bit more about my company, our investing criteria, and some of the previous projects we've done, go to the Real Estate Investing Club podcast at therealestateinvestingclub.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. Click on the Invest With Us button. That'll pop up the investor form. Fill that out, and we will reach back out to you as soon as we can. Or if you prefer a little bit more of a personal touch, you can reach out to me at gabe@therealestateinvestingclub.com. So really, that is it. Again, it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys during this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.